I think the first film resonated so much because it's such a beautiful, well-made, funny, hilarious adventure that has this deep meaning underneath it. And I think Pixar does that better than anybody. I think they know how to be entertaining and provocative, emotionally provocative, and those two things are really hard to do. So honestly, I think it was a success because Pixar made it. And then, and the idea behind it was so interesting. I think people had never seen that on screen, the inside of a mind. And so I think that's why it was such a big hit. Let me just add one more thing about why it was a hit. 2 words, Pete Docter, because he's a genius. Okay, so in the second film, Riley, our character, is turning 13. She is, you know, Joy kind of congratulates everyone for a job well done and thinks that their work is over, and then the puberty alarm rings and new emotions invade headquarters and take over and cause a lot of chaos. And those new emotions are embarrassment, envy, ennui, and anxiety.
The other thing I think is so cool about the first movie and what you said about Pixar is Pixar, I think, is one of the last, like, a brand company names that people have generic faith in. Like, they will I will go to the theater to see whatever they make. And no matter what the storyline is, how the trailer makes me feel, I'm just like, oh, I trust. And I think that's really rare these days, that people have that kind of trust in, like, a group of people who are making a lot of different kinds of art. So that's one thing. And then my character, you know, I think that she is really well-intentioned. I think she really wants to improve Riley's life. And I imagine her kind of have been stuck in an office downstairs watching Riley's life happen, you know, without being able to really take any control for a long time. And like we all do when we see other people in positions of power, we think, oh, I could do that better. I could do that better. I could have handled that better. I could have done that better. And so sitting pent up, kind of stuck in this place, and then all of a sudden puberty bell rings and she's let loose. And it's like, you know, the horse is running the hospital or whatever, and you're like, oh, now I'm in charge. Now I will show you how much better I can do. But like it happens to most of us when we all of a sudden step into a position of power that we've coveted and wanted and thought we could handle well, it's actually extremely difficult to be in a position of power. And I think that this movie is anxiety figuring out that she can't do it better, at least not alone.
Well, at first, Joy is excited that anxiety is here because she thinks another person that's got their eye on the prize. I like how the cut of her jib. And then she realizes very fast that anxiety is worrying about things that are in the future that aren't real yet. And she's kind of slowing things down and at worst making things frozen. So Joy gets relegated to a bottle. She's bottled up like the other emotions and kind of sent away, and her worst fear is realized, which is anxiety and envy and embarrassment and ennui are at the controls.
I think that anxiety wants to help Riley and is really focused on what Riley wants, and Riley wants friends. Riley wants to be on the team. Riley wants community. Riley wants to grow up. Riley wants independence. Riley wants, you know, and so anxiety's like, okay, I want to get Riley what Riley wants. And in order to do that, I'm going to imagine all the ways in which Riley might not get what she wants. You know, imagine all of these things that could go wrong and might go wrong to try to make sure that I get Riley what she wants. But what I think the kind of journey is that it's not about really getting what you want. It's about, are you trying to get what you want in a way that's also healthy for you? And I think that that's where, like, if you're just too in the moment, too Joy all the time, you might like just kind of bumble around and be like, oh, look at these pretty curtains, and like, oh, like, and I love you.
Yeah.
So anxiety is like there to be like, no, you've got to try to, you know, build for your future, but not at the expense of your present. But I think she's not the villain because those are important things it's important to worry, and it's important to strive for a better future and to work on yourself. That's important. It's just none of us are good enough on our own. Like, one thing I love about making movies is if you go to see this movie, the list of credits of who has come to work on this film is so long, and it's such a collaborative art form, and it's such a human art form, and I think humanity is collaborative. We are no good on our own, and neither are our emotions.
I think that a lot of people have a hard time trying to express how they feel. Sometimes it's easier to express how you feel through visual images, like pictures in your mind. I think why this movie is so beautiful is it gives you a visual image of what is a very conceptual, esoteric feeling, which is feelings. So I think, I don't know, like the word important is an interesting word, because when you're making something entertaining, you don't sit down and go, I'm going to make something really important. But it has become very beloved because I think it allows adults to talk to their inner child. I think it allows parents to talk to their kids. I think kids like it because it's funny and deep and they love the characters.
And I think it allows kids to talk to their parents.
100%.
In a different way,
That's
too.
right, yeah. So it's just like a way to connect. Wow, the filmmakers at Pixar are pretty amazing. Kelsey Mann directed Inside Out 2. He's a joy.
He's incredible.
He's so energetic and
optimistic and in love with actors and in love with the story. You can really see the scene playing on his eyes. When we're doing this, we don't get to watch the movie and do the voice along with the movie, but he was the movie, to me at least. Like, he was performing it and doing it. It's incredible. I got to watch the movie, and I'd never gotten to do a scene with you, and I got to see the movie and be like, oh my god, I just did a scene with Amy Poehler. Holy smokes. But I was doing scenes with him, and he was amazing.
Yeah.
And so supportive. Really, like, catch more flies with honey, or kind of style creator.
Well, the recording booth, for those that haven't heard this yet, is like kind of a lonely place. You're there by yourself. You're doing your own process, your own work usually. You're not usually with any other cast member. And the great editors at Pixar kind of build your performance together. And you're reading with the director usually, and you have to kind of imagine the other side of the scene. And what's great is that you can go back and fix and redo stuff. You can noodle with stuff. Pixar makes a ton of iterations of, I think there was something like 10 drafts of the script and 12 drafts of the screenings, and they tested and did it and reworked it. So you have a chance to go back. But yeah, it's a solitary experience in there.
Well, the reason I think anger resonates with fans who saw the first film was well, first of all, I have to actually say that I was kind of stunned that it did, because you don't expect that to be, it's not the cute, cuddly character, it's not like the little soft plush, you go, oh, my anger, it's so sweet. But the reaction was really something that I didn't expect, and I think it just has to do, I think a lot of it has to do with the flames coming out of his head. I really do. I think the fact that they visualized it so that a kid could really understand it. That's really the key to it. And the kids, I think, really, locked into that. I think what's new about Anger in Inside Out 2 is the fact that he's developing, and I hate to use this word, a bit of a heart. But he's kind of coming to grips with actually having a certain amount of respect and relying on, and also feeling a kinship with the other emotions, which he didn't have in the first one.
The character I voice in Inside Out 2, his name is only known by embarrassment, and the name says it all. He is embarrassed and insecure and kind of in fear of speaking up and or of doing much of anything, so kind of hallmarked by timidity and And it's not until later in the film that he learns that sometimes there is a time to both act and take action and to even speak up. I love the bond between Phyllis and I and the characters of Sadness and Embarrassment. I think they're both so funny in their own unique ways, and what they share is kind of this sort of bleak timidity and sort of this blankness where they're kind of looking at the rest of the world and just reacting to what's going to happen, where do I fit into all this, how do I go unscathed or unseen, and in that moment toward the end of the film, they really are able to see each other and value each other enough to team up and help out Riley.
Anxiety really is it really is the one that really makes everything crazy in this film. I mean, the touch of anxiety explodes all of the other all the other emotions kind of are touched by anxiety. Anxiety doesn't miss any one of them, and really kind of it's the one that shows up at the party you didn't want to have come. You go, really? Who invited her?
And just like real anxiety in real life, the anxiety can just take over and mute everything else and become dominant. You know?
Yeah.
I think fans should see Inside Out too, because I had very little to do with it.
Stop.
We
He's
honored
a dynamo force in this. Dynamo.
We honored the first movie. I feel like this is one of those sequels, just like Toy Story 2, where it feels like they nailed the tonality and they built upon the old story and made something fresh but familiar. And I think people are going to fall in love with the new characters and then just be so delighted and relieved to laugh and feel along with the old characters. My childhood around the age of Riley, that 12 to 14-ish zone, was very charmed. A lot of opportunities to be creative, a lot of friends, and I felt like the world was my oyster at that time. You know, you're unjaded and you're optimistic and you're excited.
Yeah, I think my time was 12 to 14 was I adjusted from the whole period was an adjustment until I got to being 14. Everything in between was a mess. I think it's important to talk about our emotions in an accessible way. It is somewhat for the adults in this country who basically live without any sense of without any real help in terms of mental health. I mean, it's vital for them, and it's really even more vital for the kids who really need. It gives them a language to speak about how they feel. And my generation did not have that language, and you can see how it's ended up for us.
Yeah, I think it is important to talk about emotions in an accessible way, and this film does such an expert job of that by entertaining you while educating you and exposing you to what those emotions mean and what the ramifications are. I once heard a therapist say, you can't heal what you can't name. And so similar to what Lewis was saying, this gives words and even characterized depictions for children of all ages to be able to look at something and go, oh, that's what that is. I think I felt that. Well, now let me explore that. And those conversations can be really healing, I think.
Well, working with the filmmakers at Pixar is one of the great joys that I've ever had in my creative life. I mean, or interpretive life, since they were the creators. It's been remarkable. Everything they said, they have a humility that you don't see out here. You don't see it in L.A. You rarely see it in the business. About their work, I think it informs their work, because it's not like they come in and go, they really are open. They have a profound respect for the people they choose to work with. Unusual in this business. And they really have taken the art of animation to another level.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier to be a part of it. And then I get to meet people like him.
Yeah, working with the Pixar family, I say family because that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like a bunch of people that actually love and care about each other and are working together to make something really special. I've been a fan for such a long time, and to see the process, what they call peeking behind the curtain or watching them make the sausage, it was actually really inspiring and fun. And it made me think, wow, there are really healthy workplaces, albeit I'm sure difficult. I'm sure the hours and things they put in are exhaustive, but you also get a product like this, and it's like, wow, it was worth all the hard work and energy they put into it. And you get to meet people like Amy Poehler. Louis Black, too.
What is it about?
It's about Riley's journey into puberty and the new emotions that come to help her along that, how they integrate with the older emotions.
And just honest, it's just, to me, that, and it's like the brilliance of Pixar taking the challenge of the complex life of like emotions and making it accessible. And it is accessible. Like you watch it, you're like, oh, what a beautiful way to see the emotional life.
Yeah, an emotional upheaval. And then a resolution. It's brilliantly done.
What makes it so cool to get to know the emotions in our mind? I think that is the thing that is cool, is to get to know them. Because for many years in my life, I tried to push them away.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't like that feeling. That's not good. But the more I got to know them, the more that I gave them a seat at the table, the more that I gave them compassion, then it's like, oh, they're for me. They're not against me. That's a huge part of the message of this film.
Yeah, what's cool about getting to know our emotions is the awareness that they're there to protect us. I mean, fear quite literally will protect you. Disgust protects you. And envy teaches you what you want. Sadness shows you shows you that you loved, or showed you that you cared. Anger stands up for what's right. I mean, all these emotions are there to protect us and to teach us, and not, learning from them, giving them a seat at the table, and also welcoming them in and learning from what they have to say.
Embracing them. What makes fear tick? Well, I loved the description that Kelsey and Mark gave me when I first started recording, because I was curious the distinction between fear and anxiety. And they said fear is reacting off an actual threat, and anxiety is reacting off a perceived threat. So it was like fear, obviously, when the sarcasm opens up and he freaks out, whereas anxiety lives in these scenarios and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I like that a lot. So, and it was just fun, bringing literally the inside out. Many times I want to react like fear. I want to do that, but I kind of keep it in. And to go in the voiceover booth and just let loose, that's fun.
Who do I voice? I voice disgust. And disgust is very correct about all things, all of the time. Mm-hmm. Very protective of Riley. She doesn't want Riley to fall to social poison, to actual poison, to physical danger. And she's not afraid to speak her mind and in order to protect Riley. Mm. And she's very correct in her opinions.
Oh, always.
Disgust is a vital emotion for Riley because disgust is a protector of Riley. Like all the emotions, disgust exists to preserve Riley's physical safety and her social safety.
So I think Riley's probably, 12 to 13? She's a big hockey player, and she is about to go to a hockey camp with her friends. And that's when she meets these kind of older, actually, she just left middle school, so she's going into high school. And she meets the high school girls that are part of the high school hockey team. And so then she's kind of in awe of them.
Oof.
I'd say when I was a teenager, it is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But I would think embarrassment, anxiety, those seem to be kind of the prominent, like wanting to fit in, feeling uncomfortable, envy, that kind of thing. That was like those were the trinity of the day.
When I was a teenager, it was all of the emotions except for joy. It was ennui. It was embarrassment. It was disgust. It was anger. It was everyone except for joy and nostalgia. I think it's important to talk about emotions in an accessible way because it leads to, aside from leading to mental health, it leads to just a happier life. I think it makes relationships better. You know, a lot of people say, oh, take your kid there. Take your kid to see Inside Out 2. I would say take your partner to see Inside Out 2. Go with your parents. I think any emotional awareness is just going to better your life.
Yeah, why do I think it's important to talk about my emotions in an accessible way? There's something to piggyback on that. I think it's also the more that I connect with the other ones, it just increases the joy. You know, to make fear accessible, to make the anxiety, to say, hey, I hear you, I know you're trying to help, it only increases, I think, the joy. Because I think the more I push other stuff out, then joy gets kind of squashed a little bit.
Yeah, I think to feel all the emotions is to feel alive in this world.
Yeah.
A typical recording session is with Kelsey and Mark across from me in the booth, and I have lines and I get to play, and Kelsey gives me notes or says just to play, say it your own way. It just feels like a fun game. It's so fun. It's like a game night, except I'm working.
What's it like to be in the voiceover booth? It's an opportunity you just don't get in life. Like you don't get to act that crazy on a daily basis. I mean, I can go on the street and start screaming like fear, but like to give the permission just to like come up with ideas and play and what about this, and also to be directed by Kelsey, who's such an energy and so many ideas. As an actor, just be like, oh, that's such a great idea. Let me try this. And you can just kind of feel the molding happening. And that's really fun. Ooh. Why should audiences not see Inside Out 2?
Yeah, there is no reason.
Yeah.
You first.
Why should audiences see Inside Out 2? I really think, I just think I know I'm in this movie. I know it sounds like a pushing. I think it's a gift to the world. I think there's a gift to not only make young people feel seen in this really kind of chaotic time of the teenage years. It gives parents the opportunity to kind of understand what the kids are going through, but also whether you're a teenager or a parent, just in life, to be like, hey, let me give myself a little more of a break. You know, have a little more compassion on myself, and to see that in a funny, creative way. Game changer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Audiences should see this movie because, first of all, it's a funny,
very funny
roller coaster of a movie. It's just an entertaining, fun time to share with your loved ones. And subversively, it gives us language to talk about our emotions and our sense of self and our belief system. And it subversively teaches us how to live better lives by accessing our emotions and welcoming them to our lives.
You know, I love that the first film, Inside Out, kind of showed us the importance of embracing sadness. It was kind of a profound idea at the time because, I think a lot of us grew up being told, like, don't be sad. And, you know, for Inside Out 2, what I love about this is we get the chance to expand that and to explore other new emotions that are a little bit more complicated, like anxiety, for example. And we get to wrestle with, like, what do you do with that emotion? Is embrace anxiety the right message? I don't know if it is.
Yeah.
And so we got the chance to really explore, like, how does one wrestle with anxiety and what's the best way to do that and what are the tools in order to try to handle that?
I mean, really, that's something that Pete Docter decided. He's our chief creative officer at the studio and the director on the original film. And, you know, these movies are really hard just to make one. And that was his intention of making the first one. Make that as great as it can, put a nice little bow on it, and send it off into the world, and then move on to the next thing, which is what he did. But that one kept coming back. People kept stopping him and saying how meaningful it was. And how much they loved it. And that got him thinking, it kept happening. And he's like, I think there might be something else here. There might be a potential. And that's where I came in, and he met with me and told me the same thing. And he's like, I don't have a pitch as to what we could do, but I think you'd be a good person to go off and think of what we could potentially do. And the great thing about working with Pixar is that we wouldn't tell another story in Riley's life unless we knew, unless we had a really good reason to do it. Riley is 13 in this movie. She's officially a teenager and everything that comes along with it, which is a lot of change. And what is she really passionate about? Definitely hockey. We really leaned into hockey in this particular film. One, because it's really unique kind of perspectives. You don't really get to see a lot of that in film, especially from a teenage girl playing the sport. I think that's what a lot of people really liked about the first film. But it's also at that age in which sports kind of changes. You know, when you're a kid, you kind of automatically make the team. But this time of life, you actually have to try out and get cut. And I remember going through that, and it's really hard. And so we wanted to kind of put that in the film, which causes Riley to have a lot of anxiety over that and a lot of pressure to actually achieve and do great at the sport that she really loves.
So the great Kensington Talman is the voice of Riley Anderson in this movie. The first film, it was Caitlin Diaz, but because that was 9 years ago and she was age 11, I think that puts her in her mid-20s by now. And we wanted to have an actress that would sound like a 13-year-old. And so we worked with our casting team to dig deep into finding a group of great actresses to look into and listen to see who would have a great voice that kind of sounded like the Riley from the first film. It had similar vocal qualities, but that was also just a great actress and that would bring a lot of appeal to that character. And we found that in Kensington, who's amazing.
She's also amazing at making friendship bracelets. Which
is that where you got that one?
I'm wearing right now. She actually made one for a lot of us on the crew, including the actresses that play her best friends in the movie, Grace and Bree. She made friendship bracelets for everybody on one of our records.
So many reasons to love Kensington. Riley's core emotions. So yes, joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust are her core five that we all got to know and love in the first film. But man, change comes into town when her puberty alarm goes off in this film. Wrecking ball comes through the window. Construction crew comes in doing demolition on headquarters. Then all bets are off. They find out that that is happening because of the others. What others, Joy asks? That's the new emotions that are coming on to kind of help Riley through this teenage phase in her life. And that ends up being envy, ennui, embarrassment, and leading the charge, anxiety.
I love our cast. I remember Jonas Rivera, who's the producer on the original film, told me, you're inheriting a wonderful cast of people. Not only are they really good at what they do, but they're really fun, and they're just genuinely great people. And you know, starting with you know, Lewis Black, he's fantastic. He's so funny. And he can bring the essence of anger
It could be the most perfect casting that's ever happened in the history of casting.
It's true. It's true. Fantastic. And Phyllis Smith playing Sadness. What a lovely human being.
Oh, man.
I
Love
loved
Phyllis.
every time we got a chance to go to record with her. And such a wonderful, sweet, sweet character. And Amy Poehler, of course, returning as Joy. What a wonderful actress!
Brilliant.
Yeah, I remember telling Pete Docter, who's the director on the original film, I don't know how you didn't work with Amy once and then put her in everything you've done ever since then, because she's so wonderful, both in what she does, but just as a person. And man, are we excited with Tony and Lisa in this movie, playing Fear and Disgust. Tony just feels like he was born to play the character of Fear. He embodies it so
He can
well.
freak out with the best of
Yeah, yeah. And he's a real friend of the studio, working with him on Toy Story 4.
Forky in Toy Story 4.
Such a lovely human being and incredibly funny. And Lisa, my goodness, I loved working with Lisa. She is so... she does a lot of dramatic roles, but every once in a while she gets to do comedy, but not enough, in my opinion, because she's hilarious.
She's very funny.
And I loved every moment that we got a chance to record with her. Such a talented actress.
Yeah, so we'll start with Ennui, we loved the idea of having it be a French character, because it's a French word. And we loved wanted it to be a sophisticated character that could speak 2 languages. And we found the great Adele Exarchopoulos to play that role. And thanks to our casting department and a deep dive into French actresses, we really wanted someone that was going to bring authentic French to this role, not someone doing what Americans think French people sound like.
Yeah.
We wanted Adele to bring herself and her incredible voice. She's got this beautiful deep register to her voice that just worked so well with this character design and just the emotion itself. So we love Adele. For Envy, we've got the great Io Adebari, who most people know from The Bear, but she's a brilliant stand-up comedian, writer, producer, so talented. And she brought just an amazing gift of comedy and some dramatic flair to the character of Envy. She's small, she's got the big eyes, she wants what everybody else has, and Io was able to really dig deep and tap into that in a very funny and charming way. Paul Walter Hauser is our embarrassment. Probably the strangest of all recording sessions that we've had for him and for us, because it's a character that doesn't speak. It was 3.5 hours of vocalizations. Paul being given, here Kelsey would say, here's what you would be saying if you were brave enough to talk, but you're not. And he would have to do it in sounds, and it was great, and it was a lot of work, and everyone was exhausted by the end of that session.
It was an interesting acting exercise for him.
Yeah, brilliant. Love Paul Walter Hauser. And then, Anxiety is Maya Hawke. We listened to a lot of voices. We auditioned multiple actresses for this role. But Maya just brings just a beautiful humanity to that character, and also is just rapid fire in her ability to deliver dialogue. She thinks and talks so quickly, and it matched perfectly with what we wanted out of the emotion of Anxiety. So we're thrilled about it. We got to explore new areas of the mind that weren't explored in the first film, and we got to set aside personality islands and set aside core memories and actually find something new and hopefully really deep to talk about in this. And I think tapping into beliefs and your belief system and like what you believe to be true about yourself and how that impacts how you see yourself, and then how that in turn impacts your behavior and how you act based on how you see yourself. And it was a very challenging concept for us to find a way to visualize in a clear way, but the team really rallied, and a lot of people poured themselves into coming up with a great solution, and we love the belief system and the sense of self.
Yeah, and I really hope that people take away the fact that they aren't alone. with what they're thinking and feeling. I certainly felt that at Riley's age. I think a lot of us do. It's when you start to become really self-conscious about yourself because you're stepping out, you're learning how to shift from being taken care of to taking care of yourself. And I kind of really understood that's why we push away our parents and caregivers at this age, because you need to learn how to take care of yourself. And so part of that, we're social creatures and need each other to survive. So fitting in is kind of based off of our own survival instincts that we have. And so you can be really critical of yourself, and it can tip too far. And I've certainly have had that, especially when I was that age. And I really felt like I was the only one thinking and feeling things, and I felt really alone. And I really could have used a movie like this when I was that age to tell me it's okay, and you aren't alone, and you're going to be all right.